But that's good. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vishtaya Bhutale Shimati
Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namani
Bhakti Devi Gauravani Pachaline Nivasish Pachaline Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Mother Sahachari, we have 1,000 people waiting to get in. Well, three exactly. Are you still there, Mother Sahachari? There's three people at the door. Oh, she must have gone to put the kettle on. All right, let me invite them in. Hare Krishna. Okay, here they come. Welcome, Mother Anupama. Mother, oh, she's just joining. Welcome, Mother Gayatri, Anupama, and Mohini Gopika, and Vijay Krishna Prabhu. Thank you for joining us again. Hare Krishna, welcome. So we're continuing with our definition of pure devotional service given by Srila Rupa Goswami in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, otherwise known as Prabhupada's summary copy, The Nectar of Devotion, and Anyavilasada Sanyam, Gyana Kamari Anavritam, Anu Kulena Krishna no Silam Bhakti Uttama. So I was saying the other day on that there's one saying which has become very prominent now in this day and age. It's let me share my screen. I don't know how many times I've said it. Let me share my screen. Now I'll find 1 second. There you go. Hare Krishna. Okay. So as usual, I'll probably ask you a couple of questions. Not too hard questions, but just what we covered last week. We did a basic introduction, or we not, well, I mean, gave a little bit of history in the time of the appearance of Lord Krishna and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then the science or example of pure devotion had been, or after Krishna, then the science of pure devotion was somewhat lost. And so then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared, and he himself showed by example what is pure devotional service. He appeared as a devotee and showing us what is pure devotional service. But he himself didn't write any books as such. You have the 8 verses of the Sri Shastaka, but his followers did, and he empowered his immediate followers, for example, Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami. So we mentioned that last week. And specifically on our subject here, Rupa Goswami just wrote what's considered by most to be the most authoritative guide on pure devotional service, the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Quickly going over what we did last week, and here is that verse. I was thinking should have perhaps put up the word for word as well. But anyway, here it is, and I think a lot of you are familiar with this verse. If you wasn't, you will become familiar with it, and it's good to become familiar with it. This is Rupa Goswami's specific definition, and he chose the word Uttama Bhakti, which means first class. And there's also other words that are used. We covered last week. Kevala, Ananya, Akinchana, and Suddha. So Rupa Goswami is making a point here. This is not just, here is first class. This is what pure devotional service actually is. Yeah. Here is pure water. Here is uncontaminated water. Here is Uttam Bhakti. This is first class devotional service. And then we had to begin to look at this, the primary characteristics of pure devotion, which are the last 2 lines. Yeah, Anukulena Krishnanam Silanam Bhakti Uttama. Yeah. So we got into that a little bit. Basically, it can be categorized into these 3 here, which you can see: to be fully engaged in Krishna consciousness, fully engaged with intent favorable to Krishna. Hopefully, as we're saying this, you can remember something of our discussion last week. And we're going to cover number 3 today. So the first 2 we spoke of last week: to be fully engaged in Krishna consciousness. Sounds a good idea? Yes. We want to be fully engaged. And that's what it means to execute pure devotional service. Does anyone can give any, before I put the slide up, any, remember any little points on this subject? What does it mean to be fully engaged in Krishna consciousness? You can just unmute and speak up. Have to go back, go back past life. No, just go back last week. So you can remember. What does it mean to be fully engaged? Krishna Anusilanam. Yeah. Full engagement. Okay. I mean, it's okay for me because I've got my notes, so I can see what it's all about. That help. But when I start to give, you'll say, oh yeah, that's what we did. Yeah, it's that. Yeah, you're right. So
Yeah.
sure.
Well, I was thinking was don't tell everything to Krishna. So you live a kind of go shopping, you do cooking, you do everything else, but you do it for Krishna, with Krishna in mind.
Yeah,
Everything to please Krishna.
yeah, that's definitely an aspect of full engagement. You go shopping for Krishna. You're buying some vegetables for Krishna. But but we're going to get that more later. But that point we didn't specifically bring up. Vijay Krishna Prabhu?
Well, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yes. In chapter 12 of Bhagavad Gita as it is, and the title of this chapter is Devotional Service,
Yeah.
there is a very clear definition of what is to be fully engaged in devotional service. And this is text 8, and I will give you the
Please.
English translation.
Yes, please. Yeah.
So it goes as follows, quote, "Just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me. Thus, you will live in me always, without a doubt."
Yeah, thank you. That's a really brilliant. That's well spotted. You spot the verse in Bhagavad Gita, which is directly speaking about pure devotional service. I think then in the next verse it goes, if you can't fix your mind upon me without deviation, disengage in the practice of sadhana. But yes, that is
Exactly. The following verses, if you cannot fully engage, then the next verses tell you how to do it in the gradual way.
yeah. Work for me. If you can't work for me, then give something in charity like that.
Exactly.
Thank you for bringing it out, and that's well spotted. Yeah.
You're welcome, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, so these are correct, but specifically we looked at full engagement. Well, it means to awaken the dormant characteristics of pure living service. Alexander Prabhu, you had your hand raised?
Yeah, if I recall it correct, was it about the six glimpses, the giving up the wanted things and
Yeah,
accepted
that's
the
it.
yeah.
Correct. You're going in the right direction. So it means this full engagement has two aspects. So we won't spend the whole session. We did this last week. So those that as Alexander correctly said, accepting activities that are favorable and rejecting activities that are unfavorable. So pravriti and nivritti. So for example, that's found in the nectar of devotion, Guru Pat Ashraya, for example, taking shelter of a spiritual master and not associating with non-devotees, giving up the association of non-devotees, for example. We could say a lot more about that, but basically there's two aspects of it. So accepting what is favorable and rejecting what is unfavorable. So that we will look to mold our lives in such a way that it comes under pure devotional service by doing these things. Okay. And we mentioned, activities that are favorable, that's mentioned in Nectar of Devotion, 64 items that's given by Srila Rupa Goswami. He goes on to give other items, for instance, avoiding the company of non-devotees again, avoiding offenses, seva aparad, Namaparad, and also he mentioned Dharmaparad as well. Okay. So I want to get, yeah. Yeah, we mentioned about following Anusilanam. It means the cultivation of devotional service must be done in guidance with one's spiritual master or spiritual authorities through the chain of dislipic succession. Do you remember we mentioned that? Then you get connected up to the powerhouse. Then the activities you do are empowered. Yeah, because it's directly coming from Krishna through the parampara. Yeah, so you want to follow. So being fully engaged means two aspects: giving up, doing what's favorable, rejecting what's unfavorable, and following the directions of the spiritual master as well. Then you're connected to the Surup Shakti. So, but this was we described this last week, and let's go here. And remember this discussion, specifically Rupa Goswami. Can anyone give any light on this? What's all this about? You remember?
The
Go on.
Krishna, in the first scenario, he likes actually is a pure love, because he basically participates in battling with Krishna, which he likes.
Yeah, Krishna likes a fight.
And it's favorable. Yeah, but in the Mother Yashoda, it's unpure because he's not happy about it.
All right, he kind of there. So yeah, so it means that specifically Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, he specifically explains this, is that you cannot use the word to please Krishna. That is not a precise description of pure devotional service, because otherwise, who's the wrestler here? Mustika or Chunura? Let's say Chunura. So Chunura is beating Krishna, his chest, and Krishna is enjoying rasa. What's the rasa for fighting again? Vyura rasa, is it? Yeah, Krishna's enjoying that. So he's pleasing Krishna. But he's not doing pure devotional service because because he wants to kill him. It's not very favorable. Yeah. So the intent must be favorable. And Mother Yasoda, she's not pleasing Krishna. Krishna's not very happy here. So that means she's not doing pure devotional service? No, she is doing pure devotional service. It's all part of her overflowing love and affection for Krishna that's manifesting in this wonderful Leela and pastime. Yeah, and Krishna's ultimately enjoying it. Ultimately, this loving affection coming from Mother Yasoda. So that we described last week, and that's how far we got last week. Okay. So any questions or comments before we edge on? Clear? Okay. So has Krishna as the sole beneficiary? So remember, we're looking at these three. We're looking at this one now. Has Krishna as a sole beneficiary? Yeah. So in other words, devotion. There's another title I have here. It's not on the slide, but devotion to the Son of Yasoda is supreme. And who's the Son of Yasoda? It's Krishna. Yeah. So this is the third primary characteristic of pure devotion. Yeah. And this one is the most important. So this good to go over this. It's the most important. Now, when we say Krishna as a sole beneficiary, we also mean he's Swamsa expansions. So he's personal expansions. Yeah. Also, he's devotees. So you could say he's separated parts, Vibhinamamsa, and his various energies, Shaktis. Now we describe that a bit more. Yeah. So when devotee engages in exclusive, this word exclusive dependence on Krishna and service to Krishna, that makes them eligible to, you kind of say, Maharaj describes it as receiving pure devotional service. Yeah. So Prabhupada also includes what list pure devotees. So you're serving Krishna, his pure devotees, his paraphernalia, and his abode, are all objects of devotional affection for the devotee. Okay, so we understand? Yeah. So Krishna is a sole beneficiary, includes his pure devotees, his paraphernalia, his abodes, describe all objects of pure devotion. Now, there's two aspects of Krishna which are not objects of pure devotion. Anyway, there's one verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, Vidanti tat bhavitam tatvam yajganam abhayam brahmati paramati bhagavan iti sabjate. Yeah, learn the transcendentalists who know this absolute truth, call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. So Krishna has three aspects, yeah, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. So Brahman and Paramatma are not objects of pure devotional service. Okay, so his all-pervasive feature is Brahman and Paramatma. So we'll explain that. Mother Sachari, are you still there? Because Kamari Priya wants to come in. I guess she's must be making a cup of tea. Okay, I've let her in. Okay, so again, any questions or comments, please feel free to unmute and you can add, or any questions, please feel free to ask. So we've all heard of Brahman. So how do you realize Brahman? Well, it's very difficult, especially for those doing embodied that's mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. Basically, it's a process of neti, eliminating it is not that, etc., trying to understand the non-differentiated Brahman. It's very difficult to comprehend or even to describe. So there's no actually flow of loving devotion to or by the Brahmavadis to Brahmans, because Brahman consists of an aspect of Krishna's internal energy, but only consists of Sat, which is the existence feature of Krishna. So it does not include his features of Chit, which is Ananda, which is knowledge, and Ananda, bliss. So Brahman, yeah, Jiva Goswami describes this quite in depth in his Bhagavad Sandarbha, that Brahman is Krishna devoid of personal qualities, and therefore it cannot be an object of service. Okay? Again, Brahman is devoid, is Krishna, but it's his aspect which is devoid of personal qualities. So pure devotional service, Uttama Bhakti, this doesn't qualify, it doesn't come under pure devotional service, Uttama Bhakti. So someone's devoted to meditating on Brahman, and they say they're a great pure devotee of the Lord. No. Yeah, so you can see why Rupa Goswami is given this very precise definition. Yeah. So, and then we have Paramatma. So we have a picture of Paramatma here. Generally, this is the, anyone heard of Ashtanga yoga? Yeah, anyone practice Ashtanga yoga? No? Okay, a little bit. Yeah, so this is generally for the classic Ashtanga yogi, the object of meditation is the Paramatma. Yeah, also, yeah, Hatha yoga and Ashtanga yoga. Now, it does contain some attributes of devotion. Yeah, some attributes. Now, why only some attributes? Because Maharaj mentions here, Paramatma manifests only qualities of Sat and Chit, not Ananda. So in that sense, there's a sense of devotion, but it's not pure because it's only in context to the existence and knowledge aspect of Krishna's internal potency. Yeah. And also Paramatma, there's also, I'm just looking at the moment, Jiva Goswami's Sandarbhas. There's a whole Sandarbha dedicated to the Paramatma Sandarbha. It's not an eternal form of Godhead. Okay, it's quite intriguing that, isn't it? We always understand that, we understand Krishna is situated in our heart, but he's only here in the material world in our heart. It's only for the functions of material creation that the Lord manifests within the heart of all living entities and all atoms in order to maintain the material universes so that everything can function. And his omnipresence his omnipresence is manifest that way through the Paramatma. But there's no need of it in the spiritual world because it's all manifested and maintained by the spiritual energy. You understand? So in the spiritual world, the Lord's in their hearts from the aspect of devotion, we can say, isn't it? He's definitely in the heart of Radharani and all the residents of Vrindavan. But the actual ontological, you could say, the expansion of Krishna is not there in the spiritual world. So he functions more to regulate the displaying the external potency here, not the internal potency. Yeah. So Maharaj writes, so he does not display the variegated characteristics of transcendence. So that's a Paramatma. So he's also not an object of pure devotion. Okay, we follow so far? A few nodding heads. Yes. So that leaves who? Bhagavan. Yeah. Paramatma, Bhagavan, and Bhagavan. Brahman, sometimes I get this Brahman and Bhagavan. So no, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. So that's the only feature for which this Uttam Bhakti flows. Yeah. So that's why Krishna Anusilanam, so it's referring to a more confidential truth that's favorable for the cultivation of activities to please Krishna. That's the topmost. So that's what it means. Krishna Anusilanam. Favorable cultivation of activities to please Krishna, not Brahman, not Paramatma. Okay. Now, another discussion here from the point of transcendental mellows, that's also known as rasa. The pure devotion shown to Krishna by his devotees is superior to that shown to Krishna's swamsa expansions by their devotees. Do you understand that? So you got Lord Ram, Lord Nrsimha, Lord Rahadev. Yeah. Ultimate bhakti, what Rupa Goswami is saying here, ultimate bhakti can only be spoken of ultimately the highest devotion in relation to Krishna. Okay? Follow? Now, is there pure devotion in Vaikuntha for Vishnu? Anyone can say? Let's hear some voices.
Not entirely.
Not entirely.
It's awe and reverence.
Oh, and yeah. Chandravali's going, yeah, you're going in the right direction. Yeah. So pure devotional service is definitely, yeah, it is abundant in the countless Vaikuntha planets, billions and millions of Vaikuntha planets. Yeah. So there you got Lord Narayan's associates, they worship him in forms of Nrsimha and Vamana, as I said. But Vaikuntha Bhakti, according to Rupa Goswami, cannot be compared to the purity of Raj Bhakti, of the inhabitants of Goloka Vrindavan. So this is the abode of the Son of Yasoda, Krishna. So you follow that? I say that again, yeah. So it cannot, so Vaikuntha Bhakti cannot compare in purity to Raj Bhakti or the inhabitants of Goloka Vrindavan. Okay. Now this brings up a bit of a transcendental dichotomy. Everyone knows what dichotomy means? It means needs explaining. It doesn't, dichotomy. Let me just, look it up. Yeah, dichotomy, transcendental dichotomy. Yeah, between devotion to Krishna and devotion to his personal expansions. So someone would like to read this verse for us? Can you unmute and read this?
I can read.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Shall I read?
Yeah, go ahead.
Uh, According to transcendental realization, there is no difference between the forms of Narayan and Krishna. Yet in Krishna, there is a special transcendental attraction due to the conjugal mellow, and consequently, he surpasses Narayan. This is the conclusion of transcendental mellows.
Okay, so that's the conclusion of transcendental. When it comes to, they're non-different, but when it comes to speaking about transcendental mellows, Krishna surpasses Narayan. Yeah. Okay, so Rupa Goswami, he gets into this. He and in the Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasmrita Sindhu, he studies the qualities of he describes the qualities of Krishna, and he speaks about 64 qualities. Yeah. Now, Krishna has unlimited qualities, but Rupa Goswami speaks specifically about 64. And those specific 64 are to enhance the devotee's smaran specifically. Krishna has unlimited qualities, but he gives 64. Yeah, because they're the prominent ones, and they're the ones that act as udipan or inspire smaran. So he lists the 64 qualities of Krishna and he writes about them in the Nectar of Devotion, so devotees can be in meditation upon Krishna. Yeah. But in his study, he reveals that Narayan has 60 transcendental qualities compared to Krishna's 64. It means Krishna wins. Yeah, 64. Now, does anyone know how many qualities the jiva has or can?
50.
How many?
50.
50, correct. Well done, Alexander. 50. And Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma?
55.
55. And Narayan, 60. Yeah. So there's an additional 4 qualities that are unique to Krishna. I think many devotees will know this. Can anyone say, before I put up the slide, what those 4 qualities are that are very unique to Krishna?
I have one.
Go on, yeah.
Yes, he's surrounded by loving devotees.
Yes, surrounded by very special, loving devotees who have such an intimate relationship with him, not to be found in Vaikuntha. Their relationship is so intimate and very special. So Krishna's surrounded, and Lord in Vaikuntha, he has devotees, but not of this type of devotees in their intimate exchanges with Krishna. So that's one. Let's see if we can get the other 3 from
Venu Madhuri, Rupa
Veena
Madhuri.
Madhuri. Yeah, you got it. Slow down. Yeah, you got it. You gave it all away. Venu Madhurya, he plays a mean flute. It's not just that he imbibes his whole rasa within the sound of the flute. There's a whole transformation of ecstasy that accompanies Krishna's flute, and it acts as a messenger. And I don't think Lord Narayan doesn't play any musical instruments. I don't know. Now, we shouldn't be having a go at Lord Narayan here, with all due respects, but we're making a comparison, yeah? So, Venu Madhurya. So okay, let's give them here. So, his unique loving exchanges, his wonderful pastimes, his flute playing, and his extraordinary beauty. Okay, so Lord Narayan's obviously beautiful, but descriptions of Krishna's beauty is could say goes, how can I say, Krishna's beauty is so much more. The beauty of Narayan comes from Krishna. Krishna is the original. Okay. So yeah, and further, yeah, so in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's described that in the 10th canto, even Lakshmi Devi, Narayan's eternal consort, always desires Krishna's company. That's mentioned in the 10th canto. Now, the internal potency has two aspects, the Shrup Shakti. So this is interesting to know. It has two aspects. One is opulence. What's the Sanskrit for opulence? It's a simple one. Aishvarya. Yeah, I have a friend called Aishvarya Das. Aishvarya, yeah, so complete opulence. So the internal potency has these two aspects, okay? Two aspects. Aishvarya, and anyone can say what the other one is? When I say it, you'll say, oh, yeah. Madhurya, sweetness. Yeah. So there's two aspects, Aishvarya and sweetness. Now, when opulence dominates the internal potency, that is that appears, the Lord appears as Narayan. Okay. Now, when supreme sweetness, Krishna is the essence of all that is sweet. Yeah. Of all that is sweet, Krishna is the essence. And if anything's sweet, it's because Krishna is sweet. The reason why honey is sweet is because Krishna is sweet. So it's invested. So that's why that's why we have sweets. Because Krishna is sweet. So he's the essence of all sweetness. There's that wonderful bhajan, isn't there? He's talking is sweet, he's walking is sweet, he's eating is sweet. He's the emperor of sweetness. So when that dominates, then his Krishna is manifest. Okay. So this opulence, this Aishvarya invokes Vaikuntha Bhakti, and also known as Vaidhi Bhakti. Okay. If you want to go to Vaikuntha, you engage in Vaidhi Bhakti, worshiping the Lord in awe and reverence. Now, we also engage in Vaidhi Bhakti, but our goal is Krishna. That's different, and we'll describe that later. So, divine sweetness invokes what type of bhakti in comparison to Vaidhi Bhakti? Hope you don't mind me asking these questions, but I want to get you involved, get you to think of it.
Spontaneous growth.
Say again?
Spontaneous love. Spontaneous love.
Yeah, spontaneous love, also known as Raj Bhakti or Ragatmaka Bhakti. So that sweetness invokes this spontaneous raga attraction to Krishna. Now later we're going to describe, Maharaj describes, very interesting, there's two types of Vaidhi. Yeah, two types of regulated devotion. One that leads to Vaikuntha, and one practiced by us, devote or go by Gaudiya Vaishnavas, that leads to spontaneous devotion. Okay. Well, sometimes devotees get confused because there's a verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita that it says, yeah, only by practicing Vaidhi, you can only go to Vaikuntha. So sometimes devotees get confused, but aren't we aiming for Goloka Vrindavan? So shouldn't we do Vaidhi? We should just throw Vaidhi away and do Raganuga? No. We practice a particular type of Vaidhi, which takes us to Ragatmaka Bhakti. But that's further down the line in our study. Okay. Now there's a question here. So complete opulence, it accompanies the Lord when he manifests within the material world and in all the planets of the spiritual world, except one. That's Goloka. So all the millions and millions of Vaikuntha planets, it's all Aishvarya. Yeah, all Aishvarya, worshipping the Lord with great prayers, So, doesn't that make it preeminent? You understand the question? There is more Aishvarya Gyan. Well, I guess, and let's just take it like that question. There's more Aishvarya Gyan than there is Madhurya. All right. So anyway, I get to the point here.
But,
go on, Chandravali.
But Madhurya is personal.
No, Aishvarya is also personal. They're looking at, they offer.
Yeah, but it's in awe and reverence.
Yeah, so in reverence.
Aishwarya is awe and reverence.
Yeah,
right?
so
okay, sorry, I shouldn't have interrupted.
No, you should interrupt. Alexander, go
on. You said there are more in
your voice has gone through the winner. Yeah,
you're breaking up.
I'm afraid we can't hear you, Alexander.
What? Could you?
Fortunately, we didn't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can. Try again.
Yeah, you mentioned that there are more jhanas than Madhurya. Can you elaborate on this? Yeah,
we'll get there. Vijay Prabhu, I will elaborate in a minute. Do you have?
You're making me say that it's like the difference between lust and love. That lust is like iron and love is like gold. More or less, Aishwarya is like iron and Madhurya is like gold.
Interesting comparison. I've never heard that exactly.
Well, your question is a very difficult one.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
No, I welcome challenging questions, but because the question is difficult, I'm trying my best to answer.
No, good. No, it's interesting you made that correlation. Now, okay, so despite the predominance of this Aishvarya, which wherever the Lord appears in all these millions of incarnations, in the presence of supreme sweetness, this Aishvarya is eclipsed. Okay, so in the presence of these things here, wonderful pastimes, unique loving exchanges, flute playing, his extraordinary beauty, it eclipses all the millions of Vaikuntha planets, and that's what ultimately Krishna's original supreme personality of Godhead, and that's what attracts him most. Yeah. So again, in the presence of the Lord's sweetness, the charm of Aishvarya, although it's predominant all over the Vaikunthas, is eclipsed. And if you want to read more about this, you can read in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, where Lord Chaitanya has this wonderful, sweet exchange with Venkata Bhatta, excuse the pronunciation. Venkata Bhatta is a wonderful, I think he's staying there during the Chaturmasya. And they have a wonderful relationship, wonderful, sweet relationship. And Lord Chaitanya begins to tease Venkata Bhatta because he worships Lord Narayan. So then he starts to ask him, so why does your consort want to worship Krishna? And there's a wonderful, I mean, I can't remember the details now, but there's a wonderful discussion that then unfolds where Lord Chaitanya brings out this point that Krishna is his mood of Madhurya is the topmost. So if you want, it's Madhya Leela, if you want to read about that more. Vijay Krishna Prabhu?
Yes, using your own words. So in the presence of love, what is the value of lust?
Yeah, you could look at in the presence of
that would be my answer to your question. Hare
yeah,
Krishna.
Yeah. So you could say, sorry, someone else had something?
No, sorry, I was just going to say the picture that you put on there that explains all the wonderful pastimes, the loving exchanges, the flute playing, because Krishna in that picture,
Yeah,
is an example of everything, the four rasas there.
yeah,
Because he's beautiful, he's playing, his loving exchanges, his pastime. The picture says it all.
yeah. That's saying a picture says it all. A picture says 1,000 words. So wonderful part. I mean, this doesn't go on in Vaikuntha.
Mm.
You know, unique loving exchanges, wonderful flute playing is extraordinary beauty. Like they're playing chase here. I mean, who can touch Krishna first? It's
Wow.
one of our wonderful ISKCON paintings by
Beautiful, yeah.
yeah. Okay. Now, continuing. Oh yeah, just continue here now. Sorry, a few more. Yeah. I can read this here. So this is from the Lalita Madhava Natakam. Once Lord Krishna, playfully manifest himself in the form, I'm sure some of you heard of this pastime, in the form of very beautiful four-handed Narayan. Yeah. When the gopis saw this exalted form, however, their ecstatic feelings were crippled. A learned scholar, therefore, cannot understand the gopis' ecstatic feelings, which are firmly fixed on the original form of Lord Krishna as the son of Nanda Maharaj. The wonderful feelings of the gopis in ecstatic Parama Rasa with Krishna constitute the greatest mystery in spiritual life. Okay, so there's a couple of different variations of these pastimes, and it's manifesting. There's some variety in this specific Leela. Yeah, but here, Krishna, you get the idea. Krishna, in order to hide himself, he manifests as four-armed Lord Narayan, and he couldn't maintain that form actually when he came before Radharani. There's a whole wonderful Leela and a whole description. Yeah. So now Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he gives us a test to see the superiority of the sweetness of Krishna compared to the opulent devotion of Lord Narayan. So he says this here. I'm quoting from a book by Bhaktivinoda Thakur called the Bhakti Tattva Viveka. So I hope you don't mind me getting into a bit of rasa here. Dear devotees, just once deliberate on the supreme opulence and then lovingly bring the sentiments of supreme sweetness into your hearts. So he's asking you to do that. Meditate on the supreme opulence, but then lovingly, you can try that, lovingly bring the sentiments of supreme sweetness into your heart. So it means you've got to hear about the wonderful sweet pastimes in Vrindavan, bringing them into your heart, and then make a comparison, he says. By doing so, you will understand the truth. Just as the rising sun consumes the moonlight, so the rise of supreme sweetness in a devotee's heart overwhelms the taste for supreme opulence. Eventually. Yeah, because we worship Krishna in awe and reverence. That's a whole discussion as well. Yeah, our approach to the deity is in the mood of awe and reverence, so we can spot the fences, because we shouldn't artificially think we are on this spontaneous platform and interact with Krishna on the altar like the gopas interact with Krishna. Okay, that would be an offense. So we worship Radha Krishna in a mood of awe and reverence. Therefore, it's all very reverential. The curtains open at a certain time. The conch blows. Toot, toot, toot. Then there's prayers. Vayanam Ganam. We stand there like this. It's all awe and reverence. Yeah. The Gopas don't do any of this. They just jump on Krishna and they wrestle with him, etc. Radharani chastises Krishna and all, the whole, So we can't imitate that. We worship in a mood of awe and reverence. Yeah. And as we develop, hopefully in our spiritual development, we will appreciate this sweetness of the service, of the resonance of Raj, but that we keep in our heart, and we still execute devotional service externally in on reverence. And that's a whole discussion. Okay, Alexander Prabhu.
Can I ask a question about this? What because what if the internal mode doesn't match the external mode of reverence? How do you balance that? How do you yeah.
Well, let's just say the internal mood of attraction to Krishna, that's something that that's something that develops at latter stages of our spiritual development. Yeah. So, but let's just say you read about Krishna in Krishna book, and we may not have had full realization and entered into the stage of ragatmaka or raganuga, spontaneous practice, but we appreciate the sweetness of Krishna. Yeah, we have some intellectual appreciation. It's very nice to hear about Krishna and his exchanges in Vrindavan. Yeah. So that's nice. That's a nice internal meditation. That's good. We're good, and we should do that. We should hear about Krishna. And we do. We hear about Krishna lifting Govardhan Hill, etc. And we have the Krishna book. But that doesn't change Seva Sadaka Rupena, Sita Rupena Chatrahi. We still worship Krishna as we are his eternal servants. Yeah, we pray to him as dependents. Yeah, he is the Lord, he is our protector, he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We relate to him from our position on that platform. Of course, we can appreciate Krishna's pastimes, but at our stage, we're not fully entering into that. That comes at more advanced stages of bhakti. You understand? I'm making sense here. So yeah, we read Krishna book and we read the pastime, and it's very sweet, but still we follow, because we haven't fully realized that. We have some intellectual appreciation of it, but so we follow. We follow rules and regulations, and we worship Krishna with prayers, and we see ourselves as being dependent upon his mercy. Yeah. Ramnath Sukababu, perhaps you can give us some insight on this quite historical question by Alexander. Yeah, Ramnath Prabhu, I can see your hand raised. If you unmute, you're muted at the moment. Oh, his hand raised. Perhaps you. Oh,
okay.
Hadi. Yeah, good to hear you, Prabhu.
Yeah. I'm on a bus right now. Unfortunately, I hope you can hear me.
Give us some guidance. Yeah, go on.
No, I was actually wanting you to give me some guidance, because this is a fine line here of trying to understand Prabhupada's instruction of worshiping the deity in the mood of awe and reverence, but with the goal of actually trying to achieve this understanding of Vraja Bhakti.
Yeah.
And there is a tendency to try and jump to the conclusion prematurely. Therefore, Prabhupada gives all kinds of warnings against that.
Yes.
And that's why this mood of awe and reverence to the deity worship is just, it's fixed in our traditions. So everyone, even senior devotees, approach the deities.
Yes.
But ultimately, we understand our goal is to develop this mood of Raganuga Bhakti.
Yeah.
Even if someone's on that level of Raganuga Bhakti, they also follow Vaidhi Bhakti, all the rules and regulations of the armed reverence.
Yes.
But as you were saying, you kind of touched on it. That mood of rag or Vraj Bhakti, it becomes internalized.
Yeah.
And generally, it's dangerous to share those things. You don't share them.
Yeah.
Otherwise, people think you're
People
sentimentalist or
misunderstand. Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly.
yeah.
You're making, it's internal. It's a religion of the mind. It's kept internal, basically. As the devotee develops in loving affection for Krishna's sweetness, if they're blessed and they're blessed with a spontaneous, with appreciation, and they're practicing some type of spontaneous vaidhi, and they appreciate Krishna's sweetness, it's all kept within. Externally,
Keep it within.
Externally, devotees always carry themselves as a regulated devotee, just like Prabhupada did. So we follow that example.
Exactly. Prabhupada would be crying in ecstasy sometimes and having darshan with deity. He didn't talk about it.
Yeah, Prabhupada would bow down to the deities when he'd be there for deity greeting.
Yeah. So there's certain things about the Hare Krishna movement is best kept to oneself, or you share it, but you only share it with devotees you really trust and are senior and will hopefully understand what you're talking about. Because if you start talking about things prematurely, you'll be perceived as a sentimentalist and even get a Sahaja label thrown your way.
Yeah.
And you don't want that.
Yeah. So thank you, Ramanath Sukha for clarifying that point. Hare Krishna. All right. Now back to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and he's asking us to do a bit of an experiment. So there's these two I was going to play some music while I read this, kind of enter more into the mood of it. But here's two descriptions we're going to read. Okay, so try your best to hear these descriptions. Here's one of Lord Narayan. And this, I must admit, this is a beautiful picture, isn't it? It's a nice picture of Lord Narayan on Garuda. And looks like he's got some breakfast. Garuda's got a snake there. Okay, so no, seriously, just listen to this, and then we'll make a comparison with the next thing that we will read will be about Krishna. Okay, so this is the experiment that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is asking us to make. So Lord Narayan was seated on the shoulder of Stotra and Garuda, who had big wings. As soon as the Lord appeared, all directions were illuminated, diminishing the luster of Brahma and others present. His complexion was blackish, his garment yellow like gold, and his helmet as dazzling as the sun. His hair was bluish, the color of black bees, and his face was decorated with earrings. His 8 hands held a conch shell, wheel, club, lotus flower, arrow, bow, shield, and sword, and they were decorated with golden ornaments such as bangles and bracelets. His whole body resembled a blooming tree, beautifully decorated with various kinds of flowers. So that's from Srimad Bhagavatam, if you want to reference that, 4, 7, 19, and 20. And then there's this well-known description of Krishna. This verse which we read is said to be one of the favorite verses of Vaishnavas who are doing smaran on Krishna. This verse which I read, and this, I'm sure you recognize these deities. Okay, so now you make a comparison. And wearing a peacock feather ornament on his head, blue kanika flowers on his ears, a yellow garment as brilliant as gold, and the Vaijayanti garland, Lord Krishna exhibited his transcendental form as the greatest of dancers as he entered the forest of Vrindavan, beautifying it with the marks of his footprints. He filled the holes of his flute with the nectar of his lips, and the cowherd boys sang his glories. Okay. Did anyone fall off the chair in ecstasy there? No, but seriously, this is so much. This is you can see when you read these two descriptions, Bhakti Thakur is asking us again is to take this Krishna's sweetness into our heart. Yeah. Okay. So that is a description of, we just covered there, that Krishna is the sole beneficiary. Okay. So that completes our look at the primary characteristics which is mentioned in this verse. Yeah. So we looked at these three. So hopefully we can understand something of these three. What it means to be fully engaged in Krishna consciousness, perform with intent, favorable to Krishna, has Krishna as its sole beneficiary. Okay. Any questions before we might pull up? We've got 5 minutes left, so we can have a look at the introduction to the next section. Unless there's any questions on here. Okay, let's see where we're going now. 1 second. Where we're going next. Second. By the time I get there, time will be up. But let's share, push the screen, share. Okay. Okay, you're wondering what's that all about, this picture. We'll explain when we get there. Okay. So this is chapter 7. So this is pure devotional service defined. This is part 2. So we're going to look at here. Going to look at here. Anyabalas sunyam gana kamari anavritam. Okay. Now we discussed the primary characteristics, but they do not in themselves fully define Uttama Bhakti. More definition has to come. Okay, so Rupa Goswami is going to define it even more, so it becomes very clear. Okay, so I'm thinking what we can do. Let's just start next week, shall we? We can just get straight into these secondary characteristics, but I'll give you a quick slide review. Okay. It is always free from ulterior desires, so we'll be looking at that. Always free from speculative and fruitive pursuits. So we may not be clear on what that means, so we're going to look at that. What does it mean to be free of fruitive pursuits? So we'll look at that. We've got some questions to ask you next week as well. Should we give up desire to advance? Does that what it means to be free of desire? Do unwanted desires that linger stop us from practicing pure devotion? We're going to look at that. We're going to look at devotional renunciation, what it actually is and what it's not. We're going to, liberation, pure devotional service free from coverings. What about knowledge? What about religious rituals? What about astrology, etc.? All right. So we'll look at that next week. So thank you, dear devotees, for joining us. Any final comments or questions before we might finish for today? I hope you're not taking note of this here. Predict your future, astrology. Okay. And just one story, I just remember Prabhupada, where Prabhupada, there was one guest, he came in and he was, he normally when people go to sadhus, some sadhus kind of read people's future, So this man was interesting. Prabhupada was a sadhu. So the conversation came up that, oh, Swamiji, you can see my hand, please? What is my future? So Prabhupada took his hand and he was looking very seriously in his hand. Very seriously, he made it quite dramatic, And he said, oh, Mm. And he looked, and he pointed it, he looked at his hand and he said, yes, I can see. And he pointed at him and said, birth, death, old age, and disease. That was his astrological calculation. Oh, Swamiji, Swamiji. All right, let's not stop. Let's pause there and we'll continue next week. Okay. So thank you again for joining us. And we'll put it up. You can watch the recording if you want, or if you go over it again. So thank you for your kind attention. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nectar Devotion.
Praise Manamana Prabhu ki jai.
Hare
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you.
Hare
Such a nice class.
Hare Krishna.
Very interesting. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
No, I can't find a button to come out of the thing. Anyway,
Let's never leave.
stuck here. Hare Krishna, Hare
Hare Krishna.
Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. I found it. Okay.
Haribo.
Hare
Hare
Bol.
Krishna, Hare
Thank
Krishna,
you, brother.
Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Mhm.